Hi, I'm Alameda County Supervisor Nate Miley, representing District 4, including the cities of Oakland and Pleasanton and the communities of Ashland, Cherryland, Fairview, and Castro Valley. Welcome to the Cannabis Continuing Medical Education Conference. Unfortunately, I'm unable to be with you today, but I wanted to send my personal greetings to all of you who are in attendance. As I understand, you have a robust and intense agenda today, focused on tying together the healthcare aspects of use and abuse of cannabis. I anticipate there'll be many, many more discussions now that this product is legal and there are markets for people to obtain it who are adults in a legal way. We anticipate also holding a summer cannabis summit, and I really value the fact that behavioral healthcare is putting on today's conference. This conference is important to address the critical topics of neurobiology, medicinal cannabis, cannabis misuse, and treatment issues. My office is working with CIA, which stands for the Cannabis Education, Youth, and Adult Awareness, as well as Behavioral Health, Public Health, Alameda County Office of Education, and Prevention Specialists on a campaign to deter those under 21 to steer clear of cannabis use, abuse, and misuse. I applaud the conference organizers as we negotiate and navigate together these uncharted waters. Thank you all for being here. I hope you learn from each other and share best practices. Have a great conference. Enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you back in Alameda County.
I am really looking forward to and am excited about this next session because as I said, from my perspective, it's something different. This is a medical education, a health education seminar, and we really wanted to have a comprehensive approach to the discussion of cannabis today. And in this day and age, and with the conversations that I've been having countywide, we really thought that the perspective of industry would be an important thing to add to the day. So we have two gentlemen who will be joining us today, and I also really want to thank Patricia Brooks from Supervisor Miley's office, who really helped me to pull this all together and to make this a success. But Omar, El-Sissi, and Soufyan, Abou-Ahmed will be joining us from the Garden of Eden Dispensary. I've already thanked them and Patricia for setting up the display for our lunch. That again, I think just kind of gave some of us the idea of what is going on in the dispensary industry and what people experience when they go into dispensaries. Omar El-Sissi graduated from UC Davis with a BS in biochemistry and molecular biology. In 2011, as the medical cannabis market started to evolve and a need for scientific analysis became more evident, Omar's science background and entrepreneurial spirit led him to co-found one of the original cannabis testing labs in California, Excelsior Analytical. And driven by the goal of utilizing analytical data to help the emerging medical cannabis industry better understand the medicine being produced and consumed, Omar acquired extensive experience in cannabis oil extraction, refinement, and cannabis product process development and quality control. In 2017, Omar co-founded Eden Extracts with the core belief that understanding all the variables and complexities of cannabis extracts is paramount to creating a high-quality product. This first-hand experience with cannabis and the way it has touched many lives in a positive light has given him a deep appreciation and understanding of the plant. Mr. Soufyan Abou-Ahmed is a 38-year-old father and family man first and foremost. He can also be called a businessman, entrepreneur, community activist, and healthcare advocate, amongst many others. Mr. Abou-Ahmed lives in the Bay Area of California with his wife and children, and he's currently the president and CEO of the Garden of Eden, a licensed medical cannabis dispensary in unincorporated Alameda County, pretty darn close to Hayward. Is my
Rock to Hayward.
Yes. With over 15 years experience working in the medical cannabis dispensaries and serving at the forefront of the medical cannabis industry in California, Mr. Abou-Ahmed is active as a community activist and philanthropist, donating throughout his community to after-school programs, church groups, and various food banks throughout the Bay Area. Mr. Abou-Ahmed is founder of the Berkeley Innovative Health, and will serve as president and executive director of the Berkeley-based nonprofit collective. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Well, thanks. Thank you, Dr. Chapman. Can everybody hear me?
No.
And if that mic isn't working, I will run and grab one that does.
Okay.
It is working now.
Okay, so thank you for that introduction. And also thank you to Supervisor Miley and his staff, Eileen. Thank you, Eileen. And all the other Alameda County cannabis stakeholders and our staff who graciously helped us prepare for this. A little bit about myself. I've lived in Alameda County my whole life. I was born in Fremont and now live in Oakland. The only time I left was when I went to school in Davis and I got my degree in biochemistry, like Dr. Chapman mentioned. I had my son, who's 11 now, my last quarter in Davis. So I came back and started working in biotech for a while. And was approached by Soufyan and my brother, who was also a partner, about starting a lab because they wanted to, they're always pushing the boundary when it comes to quality and safety for their patients. So they came to me and we did it, and that was 2011. And a couple of years ago we started eating extracts, and here we are now. And, I'll let my partner Soufyan tell you a little bit about himself. Anybody hear me?
Is your
Testing.
Sorry.
Hello?
There it is. Oh, yeah.
Bear with me, everybody.
Can I get this mic working? Since it's coming in and out. Maybe I'll just use the microphone.
try wiggling the jack.
That must be county equipment.
Who said that?
Hello?
Do they switch back and forth, or?
What if we turn that?
Hello, hello. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This works. It seems to like move it out. Everybody can hear me.
Move it up on your timing.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm honored to be here today discussing the cannabis dispensary perspective. I was born and raised in the Bay Area. I've been living in the East Bay for the past 16 years. Like Dr. Chapman said, I'm a father of 3. I originally come from a coffee background. I opened up and ran my own wholesale coffee label. I sold to mom and pop's coffee shops I distributed coffee to. And I had a good friend who worked in the first medical marijuana dispensary in Hayward, California. It was called the Hayward Hempery. It was on Foothill and E Street. And I actually got offered a job there part-time from my friend who was employed. And I jumped at the chance to learn something new, a new emerging industry, something that did not really exist before. And this was early 2000. And so I really quickly became impressed with the medical benefits that people were receiving. I could see firsthand the people coming in receiving great benefit from using cannabis. And so I got a really deep passion for cannabis and the help that it was bringing people. So I sought out to open up my own dispensary. And in 2001, I opened up my own dispensary in downtown Hayward. And that ran for almost 2 years, and Hayward was going through its own turmoil. They had a few dispensaries at the time, and they were considering writing an ordinance. And I think they fell short of actually getting in. Actually, I think they did write an ordinance, but all the clubs kind of disappeared over the years. And I had an opportunity to open up a dispensary in unincorporated Alameda County, which is only a few blocks away from my first dispensary. And I've been open since around late 2003 regarding the meeting in unincorporated, and I'm open and running to this day. So it's been about 15 years. I've been owning and operating medical marijuana dispensaries. My goal is, hopefully, you have a better understanding of cannabis than you did when you came here. Let's see. I'm only going to the types of cultivation. Really, there's what we consider three main types of cultivation. There would be indoor, outdoor, and mixed light greenhouse. And oh, sorry. So I'm going to be taking you through these steps here and the different aspects of the cannabis industry. So we'll talk about cultivation, we'll talk about distribution and testing, we'll talk about the manufacturing and CBD products, which is non-psychoactive cannabis, cannabis that doesn't get you high or doesn't get people high, and then how it all comes back down to the dispensary retail side. So like I said, there's different types of cultivation, indoor, outdoor. What you're looking at right here is just what they call clones, is taking a cutting of a big marijuana plant, taking a cutting from it and rooting it in the gel and setting it in these little trays here. Look at what you see. And this is, it'll start the rooting process. So basically it's a genetic copy of the mother plant. So when people are really happy with a certain type of genetic out of a plant, they like to keep that going and cut clones from it. They call them clones or cuttings. Some people probably know all this stuff, and some people don't, so I'll keep it really general. So here I have an example. I chose this picture. It was taken in Humboldt County, and I chose this picture because it gives a couple of different examples of outdoor grows. One of them would be, you can see a later pointer, would be like these Christmas tree looking things standing, sitting by themselves. That would be what we call a full-term outdoor crop. The two would be planted in the spring and harvested in the fall. It would take about 6 to 9 months to complete its life cycle and be harvested. And it's really the most cost-effective way to grow cannabis. It's really simple. You put the plant in the ground, you give it water, Mother Nature does the rest. And then so over here, next to it, we have these like rib-looking things. And this is what we call light deprivation. It's used in other farming practices. And it's basically changing the light cycle. So I don't know if you can see that. There's like black tarps here that are laying on the side. And so 12 hours of the day, the plant would be in darkness, and then 12 hours a day would be in light. And so this is a way to grow a large amount of cannabis outside and get multiple harvests per year. Growing it, just this Christmas tree fellow I talked about earlier, takes 6 to 9 months. And using this method here, by blacking out the sun at certain intervals, would allow you to have maybe 2 to 3 harvests in a year and still using the sun. Mm-hmm. And then last would be this big structure here, what we call a hoop house. And most of the time they're temporary structures. Some of them are permitted and considered permanent structures, but for the most part, we know hoop houses to be temporary structures. And you can kind of play with some of this its environment a little bit. You can keep it warm, keep it from freezing in the middle of the night because it has that roof over it. You can add a little bit of supplemental lighting if there's not enough sun out that day, it's cloudy, you can turn on some lights and kind of keep the plant in its space catching. And then so here on the right, we have the mothership, the fully automated greenhouse, where it has all the bells and whistles. It has supplemental lighting. It has shade cloths that will automatically go over your plants if the sun is too strong. It has blackout cloths where if you want to start the flowering cycle, you can black it out. Everything is automation, controlled by a computer box that reads all the information, how much light, how much sun, how much air, and takes all those variables and then manipulates the air, water, and feeding and light this is an extremely expensive way to grow cannabis. I mean, just the cost of the building alone. This would be considered a permanent structure. So lots of permits, fees, but once it's up and running, it's really the most efficient way to grow cannabis in the modern era. Using as much energy from the sun and air outside that you can use, but still kind of playing with nature for your efficiencies. So there's a lot of environmental concerns with illegal marijuana grows. Some examples. Sorry, bear with me here. Sorry, I lost my picture. Sorry, everybody. Where is it? Sorry, people, I missed my space here. But so there's a lot of environmental concerns for illegal marijuana grows. There's been illegal grading sometimes, which if you don't file for the proper permits or with your local authorities, you don't do the grading properly, that creates erosion on your soil. It could erode into your neighbor's soil. There's certain protocols that you have to adhere to when you're grading your land. And if you're an illegal marijuana grow, then you're not adhering to any regulations at all. Also, the overuse of pesticides in unregulated cannabis grows and in unlicensed cannabis grows, they just dump a lot of chemicals, a lot of pesticides on plants just to keep the bugs off them, and so they can harvest their plants and not have any worries of bugs or mold or bacteria, things like that. But it also creates a lot of problems on the pest problems. If they're not using the pesticides properly, you're actually strengthening the pests. And it's created huge problems in the past. Like in Mendocino County, we call it the Mendo superbug, from the misuse of pesticides, not using them properly. And so these bugs got really resistant to pesticides. And now they're almost impossible to kill with the pesticides that are available. So that's one example of misuse of cannabis, misuse of growing cannabis.
Soufyan, I have a question.
Yes.
So one of the things that, I'm glad you all have that up here, because one of the things I found in my work up north was people at cannabis farms, and my work is mostly with the government, but the complaint was the water, people using the water.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's like it's a big problem. Also, it's people diverting water from streams or digging illegal wells to water their crops. It's water theft, really, what it is, and that's another huge problem. Absolutely. Odor is a problem. It's a very strong smelling plant. It's pretty pungent. Not everybody wants to smell it. So, there's methods of keeping the smell down. In indoor grows, you can use charcoal filters, suck the air through the charcoal filters, and it'll reduce the smell a lot. Outdoor grows, it's hard to mitigate smell. Really the only thing to do is, upwind from your neighbor or something, but it's really hard to mitigate smell unless you're growing 100% indoors. Energy use is a problem. Indoor growing uses a lot of energy. Everything that the plant is experiencing, you are using energy. You have to give it artificial light to make up for the sun. Most of the time there's pumps running the watering systems. Everything takes electricity in an indoor grow. And so it's really not very efficient way of growing, but it's still some of the higher priced cannabis. It's the top dollar cannabis. A lot of people like indoor grown flowers, indoor grown flower buds. little bit more about the pesticides from the science side.
So, yeah, pesticides.
I think only one mic can be on at a time. That's what seems to be happening.
Hello. So pesticides are a big part of cannabis, and the state has outlined what harmful pesticides are and what pesticides can be used in certain quantities. So they've been separated into Category 1 and Category 2. Category 1 pesticides can't be found at all, and Category 2 pesticides can be present in certain specified quantities. There's a lot of reasons to use pesticides. Mites, like you mentioned, bugs, mold and mildew is a big problem, especially in New York operations. And certain strains of the plant are more susceptible to certain pest pressures and mold pressures and things like that. So pesticides can be part of a grow program, but they need to be
Omar,
done
I'm
properly.
sorry, I don't think they can hear you in the back.
Hold the mic close to your mouth, Omar.
Like this?
Yeah.
Let's see if you should have something else in front of you.
Right. I'm better than
Here you go.
yeah, so like you were saying, not having regulations kind of fostered this culture where people preemptively use pesticides. They'll just kind of throw a cocktail at it before they experience any problems, so they're not putting their financial interest on the line. And it's really, coming from the testing lab, I've seen some pretty wild things when it comes to pesticides. So it needs to be regulated, know what they're doing. One way to avoid using too much pesticides is through IPM, which is IPM is short for Integrated Pest Management, and it's basically a whole combination of things that you can do that aren't dangerous pesticides, like, for example, predatory mites that will fight, mites that are giving you problems, or something as simple as bug nets or natural oils. I've even seen people plant rosemary or garlic around the plants to deter certain bugs. So IPM is a big part of being able to pass the regulations that have been passed down. So a lot of people have been putting into this recently.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the part about pesticides if necessary, I'm not a farmer, but I wonder, like, let's say organic produce, pesticides if necessary. I mean, there's something that's controversial built into that statement. And I wonder from, first of all, how much agriculture around cannabis equates to agriculture around produce. And how much our standards of pesticide use with produce translates to cannabis. And to what extent this is a controversial issue within the cannabis community. Are there people in the cannabis community who are saying that in large-scale models, what we're calling pesticides if necessary is really too much? Is this a controversy? Is this a discussion that's going on?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think they've been very conservative with the allowable pesticides in cannabis. It's lower than pretty much anything else. So, I'm not really a farmer myself.
Is there organic cannabis?
There's absolutely organic cannabis.
There is organic cannabis. There's certain bodies out there that are certifying people as being organic for that cannabis farm.
So can I add to that, just to the question? So the question Dr. Chapman asked was, is there organic cannabis, right? And so that's a yes and no answer. The yes part of it is, at farms, they try as best as they can to grow organically. However, the word organic belongs to the United States Department of Agriculture. And because cannabis is not okay under, I see all the heads going, oh. So because cannabis is not authorized on the federal level, there are certain words that we cannot associate, such as this is an organic product, right? As well as we are not necessarily agriculture, we are ag-ish. Because agriculture also belongs to the United States Department of Agriculture.
So we end up not really knowing about our products because there's not a clear method and approved system for labeling and certifying. So we end up not knowing.
Actually, you are incorrect.
Okay.
But it's a good question.
Actually, there is labeling requirements, there's testing requirements, so the thresholds are really very small as far as the pesticides that are out. Once the product is tested, if they find pesticides in it, most of the time that product has to be destroyed. It's very strict.
Yeah, there hasn't been up till now, but I think that's changing.
So we're in kind of a transition moment.
Absolutely.
Correct.
As of January 1st, right?
Yes.
So do I assume that the state is putting in place a variety of testing, like, quality testing, mold and spores,
Yeah,
to
yes,
make
yes.
sure there's not, salmonella or whatever, any old kind of stuff in there, that there's gonna be some kind of a standardized set of testing that all the products have to go through?
Yes, that's actually the
Yeah, we have
the
a
next
handout.
slide that we're getting into
Right.
is going to be about
Yeah.
testing and
So although it's not federal, it's a state.
It's a state.
The state created it.
Yes.
To try to safeguard, customer safety. right?
Correct.
Health and safety.
correct, and I feel they did a pretty good job of it.
So yeah, like you were saying, all cannabis or cannabis products would be tested for safety and potency. Listen, yeah.
Or whatever.
This is the Bureau of Cannabis Control's required test for different types of cannabis. There's inhalable and edibles, topicals, and as well as the rollout schedule, so which tests are required. Okay. So I just wanted to point out a couple of important ones. The potency is probably the big one. Potency is how strong is it, and how to dose it. And you have a bunch of safety requirements. So there's different types of chemicals. There's pesticides, there's residual solvents for manufacturing, there's other things like plant growth regulators, all that stuff. That's broken down into category 1 and category 2. And then another one that I wanted to mention on here is terpenoids. Terpenoids are down at the bottom, and it's not a required test, but it's not required, but when it comes to cannabis, it's kind of important because they make plant mix so many of what people call terpenes.
Why was it important? I missed it. Can you just
So
repeat it?
cannabis makes a lot of terpenoids. Terpenoids are terpenes. Are you on? They're a class of compound that's responsible for the smell and taste, and also can kind of modulate the effects. So when you have cannabis that puts people to sleep, or cannabis that's mentally stimulating, a lot of it has to do with these compounds. So it's not a safety thing, but it's kind of important. And cannabis makes it's such a wide variety of phenotypes. So the terpenes are a really interesting part of cannabis.
Question.
Yes.
I'm saying, like, so when it leaves the farm, there's an actual agency that comes to inspect as
I think
it goes.
There's a little blurb about this later, but when it leaves a farm, it has to go into the hands of a distributor, a licensed distributor, and then the distributor is responsible for the safety checks
that screens for all those things you just did?
Yes.
And they have a certain
A
chemical?
lab, like our lab,
Oh,
would be
okay.
actually the ones doing the testing, but it would be held by a distributor before it went. So this is an example of a potency test from our lab. I'm sure some of you have probably seen this already, but I thought it was important to go over some of this stuff. So here you can see we have our lab chooses to report dry weight and actual weight. The state requires dry weight, the CDPH requires dry weight only. And then you can see on the top left box we have total THC right here and total CBD. And along with those two, we have a list of some other minor cannabinoids. We have CBG and CBN. So THC is obviously a psychoactive molecule in cannabis, but there are other similar compounds such as CBD, which are present in small quantities normally in high THC flowers, but are non-psychoactive. And CBG is normally present in a small quantity as well, and it's a biochemical precursor to THC and CBD. And CBN is kind of an indicator of how well the plant's been cured or stored, because if it's exposed to too much air or light, you'll get some CBN production, which is basically degradation.
So, when people were walking around looking at things, do we have any CBD things up there?
And CBD tincture. CBD, yeah, this is kind of typically how you see CBD. Normally it's an edible form. People don't really smoke CBD flowers. It's more like the medical side of things. And this is a tincture, which is like cannabis oil mixed with coconut oil or some other carrier that you can use sublingually or just eat. And yeah, again, it's non-psychoactive.
Can you use it transdermally?
Yeah, yeah.
How effective is that?
It's very effective.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you transdermally is a viable delivery method for sure. People do that.
I'm new to this land.
Okay.
But, because I'm a nerd. But, my understanding is that you can never get to 0 THC in any product. Like, you can get, 10 to 1,
Right.
20 to 1.
You can
Can
get
get to 0?
Yes, but so the thing is, like, this is a typical flower sample. You'll see it's very high THC. It's been spread that way over a number of years, but there's always going to be a small amount of CBD. This is a bad example. So high THC flowers will have point-something% of CBD in them, and then on the flip side, CBD flowers always have a small amount of THC in them. But when you go into manufacturing and making the oil, you can use certain chemistry methods to completely separate them. Yeah.
Does
So you can
everybody
produce
do that, or
pure
is that
whatever.
unique to your business?
Some people do it.
Because my patients who have addiction disorders with marijuana are telling me that they go to dispensaries, get CBD stuff, and get really high in a THC feeling.
They shouldn't be getting really high.
Yeah,
Even if there's a small amount of THC in a product, if the ratio of CBD to THC is so high, they should really not be feeling very much. But maybe the product's not tested properly.
Yeah.
So you can get CBD without any THC?
Yes, you can purify it to the 98 or anything.
Do you know about, or have you heard studies about CBD being used for antipsychotic? Or?
I've heard about things, yeah. I'm not, the doctor or anything like that, but there's people out there that are using it for that application.
I have a question. Understand that there's hemp-based CBD. Do you test for that as well, or just whole plant-based? And second of all, what are the differences between the two?
We can test for either. The main difference is that hemp, as it's classified by law, can be sent across state lines or across international lines. So other countries, or you can buy it from, for example, there's large hemp farms in Kentucky, whereas if it's classified as cannabis flower, even if it's high CBD, it has to stay with the state. That's really the big difference. I mean, you
But
could-
are the hemp-based ones as effective as the whole plant-based ones?
That's a question for somebody else. But I can say that the CBD that comes from hemp is the same as CBD that comes from cannabis flowers.
With all the issues with like water shortages, pesticides, all those kinds of things, is there a consideration of manufacturing just the molecules?
Chemical synthesis, yeah. There's,
Can you repeat the question for us over here?
he's wondering if people are synthesizing it from scratch instead of growing the plant and extracting it. And there's a company, I think it's a Dutch company that makes a medication called Marinol. It's been around for a long time. And that's the classic example. I don't know many people who use it. It must be, I mean, I think to compete with growing the plant, it's a pretty hardy plant. It would probably be hard to synthesize from scratch and make sense money-wise.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe got a couple more.
So I'm also new to this world. So forgive probably what's a totally rudimentary question, but so if you have two states that are next to each other and they have sort of equivalent, let's say that the regulations in California are X and the regulations in Oregon are the same. Let's assume they're just the same, right? So if I had a patient who bought some products from you guys here, and then they wanted to drive to Oregon on vacation, there's a border issue, correct? So even from one state to another, if the two states have similar regulations and legal, laws and stuff, it's still interstate transportation.
It's still interstate
So the
commerce.
feds get in the way there.
Yes, that's when you cross state lines, that's when you get some problems with the federal government or federal enforcement. It's supposed to stay within California for now. I mean, until it becomes federal legal, you cannot cross state lines.
And because when I give patients like Suboxone and medications for addiction, I talk to them about traveling, what you need to do to travel safely so that you can keep what you have and you blah, blah, blah. So I'm just kind of wondering how it works for this. What if someone's taking a Southwest flight from San Francisco to LA?
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
So airport security doesn't care?
Well,
Because that's fed, right? Isn't that fed?
Well, it's a little bit. I mean, some TSA does not really care, but you hear on the news that they do care, and they're not going to allow you to fly with your marijuana. So I mean, basically, if TSA wants to make us think about it, that they could, and just not let you fly with it. But for the most part, people are flying up and down California with their cannabis products, and no one's bothering them.
Right. And what if someone wanted to buy some from you guys and then send it to a friend in LA to use the post office? How's that? What's the deal with that? Is that allowed?
He's shaking his head no.
Probably cannot do that. I would send it through a private company and not through the post office. Yeah.
No, we don't ship cannabis, right? We're not authorized to do that. But there is something called the safe harbor airport. For instance, in California, most of the airports in California are what we call safe harbor airports. They're not going to do anything if you can have your cannabis. It used to be up until January 1st, your medical recommendation for your cannabis, but now we're adult use, so you don't have to have that. However, I just was in a conference yesterday, and they reminded us that when you are flying, you're flying under the federal regulations, and cannabis, once again, say it with me, is still illegal on the federal level. So TSA, we're not going to be checking your luggage for cannabis. However, they have every right to do that, and they have every right to stop you. Now, if you land in Texas with your cannabis,
We'll never see you
I'll
again.
just leave it at that.
Okay, so all of the products here, are these all from California grown plants, manufactured and distributed?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
in California.
Yes. Yep.
Last one.
Okay, I'm just curious around the other, the other products that are in the baking or the candy or whatever it is, like, the high fructose, the other stuff that we in our conscious that can cause diabetes, that can cause high blood pressure, are those labeled like that? Like how much content of sugar and salt and all that?
They're labeled like this, I think.
Packaging and label came out January 1st.
Full ingredients, just like any other food product.
The last thing I wanted to talk about on this slide is the difference between THCA and Delta-9 THC. Like again, I know some of you guys already know this, but in a plant, there's no, or very little Delta-9 THC, which is the psychoactive cannabinoid. It's mostly THC acid with a little A. Not the THC acid. And THC acid is not psychoactive. So most of the, like if you were to eat a raw flower bud, it's not going to be psychoactive. It has to be activated first by heating, either by smoking and heating.
It's a good point. So he's saying if you take a marijuana flower bud and you actually just ate it, most likely it's not going to do anything to you. It's a process of decarboxylation, which is basically heating it, which brings out it makes it actually absorbable by the human body at that point. So I mean that's why people would bake brownies for so long, because that heating process in the baking is what actually made the THC active to your body. And
It's especially important for edible products because the metabolism is very efficient through the knowing how much both of those. Okay, here's I wanted to throw this slide in as well. It's an example of a pesticide test from our lab. You can see there's a nice list of compounds here. Some of them are category 1 and some.
I'm sorry, Omar.
Yeah.
The ladies over here want to break into the cannabis cookies. So I didn't want to be rude, but I just wanted you to know that's what was going on. They're not laughing at you. They're wondering if the cannabis cookies come in Weight Watchers versions.
Well, it is 420.
Yeah.
So we all should go.
There's a lot of pesticides on this list. Some of them are in category 1, some are category 2. And you can tell which ones are category 1 because our limit of quantitation, which is the LOQ column, it's like how low can the amount be, and our instruments will still be able to detect it, and the limit are the same numbers. So like Kumoko is 0.01 LOQ and 0.01 limit. So if that's detected at all, it would be automatic failure.
So some they're allowing a trace amount, and some they're allowing none whatsoever.
And you can see the other limits vary. So somebody thought about it, and it kind of makes sense.
Totally out of the blue, kind of just a question. So I assume that when they grow tobacco, right, they got plants, they're in the ground, they're either outside or in greenhouses. Like it's kind of similar, I assume. And I assume that tobacco goes through a similar sort of a screening of, looking for any kind of pesticides that might remain. So is it kind of similar? Is the cutoff levels for pot end up being kind of similar to tobacco?
I'm not sure exactly what the thresholds for tobacco is, but I know that there's certain ones like Eagle 20 that is used in cannabis, and it's also banned from tobacco because when ignited, it has a very harmful effect on your body. And they've been using it in cannabis for years, and I think it's a huge problem. Eagle 20 should not be allowed cannabis whatsoever, especially if they're smoking it.
Eagle 20 is microbutanol. Eagle 20 is microbutanol. It's really one of the biggest. It's the gross offender for cannabis. But you can see they have a pretty low limit here. I think, like for grapes, for example, it would be 3 ppm. It's orders of magnitude more than this. But yeah, it's such a small amount. I actually have a pretty funny story. I got a new guy in Colorado that was doing an indoor grow and preparing for all these regulations. He basically stripped everything out of his roof, all the walls, floor, everything, all new equipment, everything was brand new. The only thing that was still left over from his old setup was the air conditioning unit on the roof, and he failed and lost, a bunch of money. And he hired a contractor to figure out what happened, and the guy found traces in the AC.
Wow.
That's all it takes to fail. That's how low that number is.
Yeah.
Moving on. Yeah. So when you fail, if you fail a pesticide test, there's two options. All hope is not lost. So you can either destroy it or do something that's called remediation. So you take the flower material and you manufacture it into oil, and then you can remove the pesticides that way through other. So now we're going to talk a little bit about manufacturing. So cannabis flowers, as a byproduct of producing flowers and trimming them to make them pretty and ready for retail sale, you end up with something called trim. Trim is like leaves and little bits that come off the flowers that fill and contain, 10, 12, 15% THC in some cases. So there's still a lot of usable oil there. So what do you do with it? You use an extractor, which is pictured on the right, massive extraction machine, to strip the cannabis oil out of the plant material. And then you can use that oil to make different things. Like on the left here, this guy's making gummies, pouring something into a mold.
Pretty much all the rest of the plant besides the flower we make with cannabis oil.
Yeah. You're concentrating it.
Right.
Right. So there are ways to vaporize THC, but it's kind of like there's a process called distillation where you can evaporate THC, but the ultimate goal is to concentrate it even more. So, I mean, there's a whole range. You can the lowest percentage extract would be like cold water ash, like classical ash. Would be around 30% THC, but depending on what kind of post-processing steps you do, you can get all the way up to 90 or even close to 100. Does that answer you?
Yes, but the process will determine how high the THC is, right? The process, if you do distillation or.
Yeah. The machine on the right is basically for processing bulk plant material into oil. So you're taking a ton of plant material, takes up a lot of space, and concentrating it into like jars or whatever. Moving on.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
The concentrate or the distillation or whatever method that you're using, that's for BHO or?
BHO BHO stands for butane honey oil. It's kind of the vestige term, but butane is just one of the solvents that you can use to process cannabis.
Are there regulations as far as parts per million for the?
Oh yeah. So there's category 1 and category 2 chemicals, like I said, and one of those chemicals is residual solvent. So butane would be on that list, but it has to have at or below some certain quantity.
But it's like
Parts per billion is minuscule, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's very small amounts.
It's I think 5,000 parts per million. When we get into the nitty-gritty. Butane itself is not, other than the flammability of it, it's not that dangerous. When you smoke it, it creates carbon dioxide in water. So it's more of got a bad rap over the years because people are doing it improperly in open systems. Actually blowing their houses up and blowing pipes off of their body because, you know, they have this, this extraction equipment in the garage and they think everything is going fine. Little they know a pilot light turns on and turn on their water heater for their house.
Right.
And that's enough spark, there's enough gas in the air, boom, you know, it's just, so that DHO definitely has a bad rap.
There's waste properly we talked about. And the other problem is low-grade solvents, which
You can't obtain like high-grade solvents, they're going to have contamination from other nasty things that you don't want, like propellants and other benzene. But distillation is kind of like butane, honey oil would come first, and distillation would be like one of the later processing steps if you really want to get into the 80s or 90s.
everything that's coming out now is regulated to that parts per billion.
Yeah. So here we got a slide with some of the different types of products they use, right? So I think most of these are here.
I have one right here. The one on the top left. I brought a dark pen and I use it. And it's good.
So just some examples of products that are made from the oil extraction process he's talking about. This would be a very popular item that's being used now. It's a vaporizer. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. These vaporizers are extremely discreet, efficient. They don't smell that much. You know, they slip in your pocket. You know, people can use them and really not bother a bunch of people around them. One of the problems is smoking a joint out in public. It smells for a block in each direction, and these things really kind of make it more discreet. And so then here we have edibles, which would be gummies, and that's one of the most popular items that we're selling now. People just like to eat gummies. Just whether it has cannabis or not, people love gummies, and if you add cannabis to gummies, people love it even more. I don't know what else. I mean, I'm surprised about it too.
There was a question that came up this morning. I don't know if people are still here, but the question was about the child-friendly labeling product and whether or not gummy bears or gummies in the shapes of animals are still something that are available, or is there something that are no longer available?
I'm not sure if the shape. I'm not sure about the shape of the. I don't know if it can be a bear or has to be a square. That I'm not 100% sure on. There's still regulations.
The shape matters, yes.
The shape matters.
It can be in the form of a candle or a lollipop, something that would be attractive to children or human beings, right? So, and again, that's all new as of January.
We had a huge problem in the past with, especially when the industry was a lot newer, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. There was companies that were just taking an existing candy bar, like a Snickers, and then changing one word on the name, making it look exactly like a Snicker bar, but it has a whole lot of cannabis in it. It's another good thing about the new regulations is the candies and edibles are limited to 100 milligrams for the whole purchase, and they're split up into 10 milligram or less doses. So before January, or even up till now, people are selling 1,000 milligram candy bars, and it'll destroy you. I mean, your day is done, maybe even the next day. And I've done this to myself before, where I just had to go lay down, and then I woke up and I was still high, and that's not cool for anybody. I don't think it's way overdosing. I'm really glad that California has dropped the dosage down and make it more manageable for people, especially somebody new coming into cannabis, and you hand this 1,000 milligram candy bar. They're never going to touch the stuff again because it's just too much. So also we have here a CBD product that we really enjoy. I enjoy using it myself. It has really no psychoactive effects whatsoever.
And from my experience with it, it's kind of brings me in focus. And I don't know, it makes my body feel really loose and energetic. And I do not get high from this product. Here's another example of a CBD capsules, pills, also non-psychoactive. And we have on the far left here would be what we call shatter. It's oil that has such a high amount of THC on it that it kind of stays brittle. And if you just threw it on the surface, it would shatter like glass. A lot of people that like to do, I don't know if you've heard of dabs, or people that smoke oil, they call them dabs. They really like this shatter stuff. And then here we have, what I was talking about earlier, the vaporizers, one of the vaporizers that we manufacture and carry in our store.
Hey, how do you all work with people that come in, say somebody comes in and is not familiar with using marijuana and they're like, I'm having trouble sleeping, or, you know, I have anxiety, like how do you guys consult with that client?
Absolutely. I mean, that's actually, you know, probably the most difficult part of our business is finding out what works for people and not steering them in the wrong direction. So, I mean, you know, people will come in, they say, okay, well, what's your best? And we say, what are you trying to accomplish? What is your ailment? Do you know? And so it'll be the first question we ask back. And what we can do is we can recommend a product that works for most people from feedback that we receive. But then we tell them that everybody's different. Everybody reacts to different chemical compounds differently. So we are looking for them to start small and give us the feedback. Did it work for you? Did it not work for you? But it's hard to just say this is going to work for you in cannabis. And I'm sure with a lot of other medications.
I heard like people are using CBDs for their pets, for pain.
Yes.
I have 2 old dogs. And I was wondering, like, is it really effective or is it just a gimmick?
I just lost my 2 German Shepherds recently, my girl German Shepherd, she developed cancer about a year ago, and I found a lump on her stomach and brought her in, and you know, the doctor said it's really bad, and she's probably not going to make it very much longer. And so I received a bunch of medication from the vet. One of them was steroids, and within 2-3 days of me giving her this medication, she was not acting like herself. She was panting really heavily. She looked confused, and I said, well, you know, if she's dying, I'm not really helping the rest of her life out by giving her this medication. She's not doing well. And so I decided, why? I should know better than this. I run a medical marijuana dispensary. And so I took her off all the medication, and I gave her pure CBD, and it actually improved her life. I got to take her on vacation. She was barely walking when I started this medication. And I started giving her CBD. Her energy level went up. I got to take her on more vacations. She loves to swim. She got to go swimming a couple more times. She was happy. Her quality of life improved. And she did still pass away. By the time I caught the cancer, I'm pretty sure it was too far gone. But I did notice her life and her energy and just her happiness was a lot better from giving her CBD than the vet prescribed medication, at least for my dog.
How do you know how much to give? Like, is it based on the weight of the dog, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's makers that are making actually pet CBD treats now that have the correct dosage for the correct weight of the dog.
Okay,
you're welcome.
There's the product term is basically just can take along here. There's anything you can imagine, just repositories, there's food, well, this goes on. Okay.
Do you sell the pet CBD products at Garden of Eden, or are those things that one has to access elsewhere?
We're actually we're actually courting some pet CBD makers. They're actually all over the Bay Area, up and down California. We don't currently carry them right now because I like to fully vet and test products before I put them on the shelf, and we're in the phase right now of seeing what the better products are as far as CBD
treats for dogs.
Questions over here?
Yes.
What's the pricing on the products you had up here? Could you tell us that?
Okay, let's see. What? This is only showing part of the product. This is the cartridge, basically. And this would need a battery to power this cartridge. So this would be the package that you would use, and this would run about $120. This is the product right here, and it's really simple. You just put it in your mouth, inhale, and just put it back in your pocket, wherever you want to put it. It's really efficient way of using cannabis. This setup would go for about $120. It would last people typically a week or so, depending on how much they use cannabis.
The oil, but not the pen, right?
Right. The oil. The cartridges are replaceable, and then the actual battery part you would keep, and then this right here would be $60. $60 would be the refill.
Should be $6 a week. Mary, do you want to see it over there? She bought the pen, it would be $6 a week.
60.
Oh, $6.
Yeah, 60.
The white one up on the top left is a little bit cheaper.
Yeah,
Like $50.
well, I should show you the most high-end vaporizer that we have. We have a couple different lines of vaporizers, all the way to more affordable ones. But I just showed you the most expensive one as an example.
How much are the gummies and the tinctures?
I think the tincture is also $60. I mean, cannabis products are still a little expensive. I mean, to be honest, since regulation, prices gone up for cannabis, and the tax has gone up. That directly affects the consumer, the end user. So yeah, it's
That
They're
tincture would
expensive.
last for quite a while though, right? I mean, that looked like a good sized bottle. I think you had one, right?
Yeah, I've been using my bottle for about 2 weeks now, but
Yeah.
I don't use it every day. I just kind of use it as needed.
Right.
It's like I hurt my back a couple weeks ago, and I used it every day for 3 or 4 days, and then
Right.
I just didn't think to use it again because I felt healed.
Yep.
I think it can vary quite a bit. I've heard of people doing treatment courses for cancer. Again, I'm not a doctor,
sure.
but they're taking 100 milligrams or 200 milligrams per dose,
Right.
whereas like a normal person's dose could be 10 or 20,
Right.
a whole order of magnitude. So how much you use it, I think, needs to be studied more.
Yeah, sure.
Is there a price difference with and without a cannabis card? Is a cannabis card is still a thing? Is that?
You get a tax break if you have a medical recommendation,
Okay.
but
So it's a little cheaper if you have
a little.
What's the most popular product that you're selling now?
Yeah, that's
Most popular product. Most popular product would still be the flower side, even though it has the slowest growth out of all the other downstream products. Things like these vaporizers, gummies, all these other products are growing exponentially. Flower sales are kind of tapering off, but it's still the bulk of our sales. Flower buds.
What do you think about the prices high in this regulated environment, that you will still be selling a lot on the street, illegal, how do these two worlds fit?
There's enforcement now, or there's supposed to be enforcement.
Right, but there always was supposed to be, some enforcement, so.
There's no, they had no money though. Now they have money.
Now they have, day one, on January 1st, before any tax money was collected on this new law, something like $54 million got released day one for enforcement.
I just saw in the news that something like 1,200 cease and desist letters went out across California to all the legal providers, which is a good thing for the legal market. You know, if you have to compete with somebody who doesn't pay taxes or doesn't have the products tested or don't even need a storefront to operate in, it's really hard to compete with that. They can undercut your prices tenfold.
Right, that's what I was wondering, and if there's a market for it, if people who don't have the money to you know, like.
I'm sure there's always going to be, you know, I'm sure there's always going to be.
And then what about the, like, not mafia, but, you know, like, I've heard that, like, pot farms are heavily armed, dangerous place for pets, and, you know, that you have dogs, you have machines, you're gonna protect your stuff. You know, there's that element, and I'm wondering, you know, about that.
Yeah, it's been a problem for a long time. You know, anybody growing cannabis illegally wants to protect it. They're afraid to call the police if something happens, so they have to arm themselves. They feel they have to arm themselves, and it's created a lot of issues.
But you're two worlds.
Yeah, I can't mix with the black market world, but you know, the black market I don't think will ever go away in any situation. I mean, there's all just like alcohol has been legal for a long time. There's still people moonshining moonshining liquor, you know, because they don't want to pay taxes. So I think it's always going to be there in some form or another.
A big part of this problem was that if you had a pot farm, or I'm sorry, you have a pot farm, you can't just call the cops and tell them to come. But hey, like, it's up to you basically. That's where a lot of that comes from. And it's a high value crop. People are going to try to take it right here. And then,
Do you foresee California, and specifically Northern California, becoming and maintaining status as the state that produces a lot of cannabis, or do you
California
see it
is,
throughout the country?
oh yeah, the center for cannabis around the world out there.
And do you foresee that shifting, or you foresee that?
I don't see any indication of that.
We consistently grow the most cannabis out of any state and the best. It's true. You know, I'm sure there's good stuff here and there, but California is known across the world for having the best cannabis in the world. Even better than Amsterdam. You know, we've had people come from Amsterdam to our store. You know, talking, and you know, we show them our products and they're blown away every time.
Can I add to that? I think it has everything. I mean, of course, we're particular, but it has every. It's not just us saying this. You can check with the DEA. It has everything to do with the environment we have here in California. And the further up north you go into the Emerald Triangle, that is actually the best place. You always heard of that Mendocino, Mendo, and Humboldt County. It's actually true. That's called the Emerald Triangle. And actually 92% of the cannabis that supplies the United States of America comes from up north.
But it's not all part of the environment in that way. Some of it's grown indoors, so that would sort of skew some of that percentage.
Well, the best type of cannabis grown is outdoors.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so you guys are this is great, all these questions. So there's a bill in Sacramento right now that has to do with sunshine grown pot, or sunshine grown cannabis, like a commission, to form a commission that defines sunshine grown cannabis. Is that because that's going to be like a sub program? Does that appeal to the consumers?
You know,
more?
it does appeal to some consumers. When you say it's sun grown, people like that idea. But for the most part, the high dollar cannabis still to this day is indoor flowers.
So I just want to say that I saw that and I was like, I don't know what I'm, this is new to me. Second thing is, I assume that you guys are targeting people like you would for alcohol?
Absolutely.
And is it everybody, or is it people that look over the age of 35?
No, it's everybody. Every single person that walks in the door, and if they look 60 years old. We have a tracking system that we use, so we scan the back of their ID and it's put this in, because there's actually purchase limits that we have to adhere to.
there's only so much cannabis a person can buy legally within a certain amount of time. And so we need to track what they're buying for us to know when they hit those thresholds.
Is that a state?
Statewide, yes.
Is that already?
It was actually a local, before it became a statewide, it was actually our local ordinance in Alameda County that would allow us to allow us to sell only 8 ounces per patient per month. So we actually had to put systems in place to track that. Because, you know,
I was just wondering, since the federal government doesn't support or condone marijuana, and and I know there were a lot of DEA raids prior to January 1st, but I think I remember hearing there was actually a DEA raid after January 1st, so in the state of California. And I was wondering if you've heard of anything related to the federal government's kind of law enforcement tactics.
I can actually answer that for you. So once upon a time, we had the Cole memo under the Obama administration, as some would say, the good old days, right, in the cannabis industry, and then that changed, went under our new administration now, 45, right? And so basically, I'm sorry.
And, so that changed under our new administration, right? But just last week, we had word from DOJ that President Trump is going to leave cannabis alone for right now, right? And then we're still relying on states' rights, right? And so Proposition 215 gave states the right to have medical marijuana. Proposition 64 gave California the rights to have adult use marijuana, right? So, but to your point, no one is resting on their laurels saying, oh, we got this, we got this. You're indeed correct. We did have some raids up north, and those raids were really in support. The industry supported those raids because those were rogue farms that needed to go. So the industry supports regulation, and we're happy that regulation is indeed here.
sorry, I'm interested in
So around IDs and when they're scanned, are those, scanning, is that data staying in the dispensary, or is that data being shared throughout all dispensaries?
No, we have to adhere to HIPAA compliance. So none of those records leave our store.
So I'm not,
Yes.
so I'm a consumer, I'm just a consumer, I go, I swipe my ID in, Harbor side, and then I buy my top amount, and then I can go to eating and swipe again, my ID.
Yeah, you're right. There's. I don't think that currently there's a way that we're tracking store to store. When track and trace is fully implemented, should be. They keep saying it's going to be July.
July 1st?
Track and trace is a state-based tracking system for cannabis, all the way from when it's grown, when it goes to the distributor, when it's tested. Each point is being tracked by the state. So until that's in place, right now we don't have a way of someone purchasing their limit and then going to another dispensary and purchasing the limit. Hopefully after July we'll be able to know. And I just want to thank everybody for bearing with us. This is our first go around at something like this. We'll get better over time. Sure.
Are we still here?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were closing out.
Oh, no, I just want to thank everybody for bearing with us, because first we had mic problems and flow problem, but.
All right. I have another question.
Yes.
So when this cultural change was happening, the assumptions that people were making and what you would hear, I don't know if it was confirmed, but what you would hear, like R.J. Reynolds already had all kinds of ownership of, labelings.
Mm-hmm.
So who owns this industry? When you go into a dispensary, is it owned by that person? How big of a model is this, and who is at the top of this model?
I mean, what we're seeing now is a huge amount of consolidation.
going on in California. There's actually big Canadian money coming down and buying up dispensaries in California. So it's changing rapidly. I mean, it's always been very independent. There's you know, you go into a medical marijuana dispensary, usually they're independently owned. They're not owned by some big corporation. That is all changing. As far as, you know, R.J. Reynolds controlling the marijuana cigarette market, I haven't seen that happen yet. We've all speculated, we've all heard these stories. Actually, one of my first patients was a San Jose, Santa Clara County firefighter who saved somebody's life by giving them mouth-to-mouth and contracted AIDS by saving this person. And so they were one of my patients benefiting from the use of cannabis. And he was telling me stories of, he was brought into a Philip Morris facility, and he had a one-way mirror, a room with a one-way mirror and a chair, and an ashtray, and one Philip Morris marijuana cigarette sitting there, and they wanted him to smoke it and give his feedback. And he said it was terrible. He said it was the worst thing he's ever smoked in his life. It was obvious that they messed with it. There's something else about it. There's other chemicals added to it, just like they would cigarettes. So I mean, it's. I don't think California is going to stand up for that kind of stuff. We're smarter than that. We know better. I hope.
Can we move through the rest of the presentation? Because I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. I know people have lots of questions, but.
Sure. You thought you didn't have enough material. I told you there'd be a lot of questions.
I'll try to move quickly because we're running out of time, but as far as the manufacturing regulations go, they've been set down for CDPH and the BCC. And they've defined a couple of license types for BCC. Oh, I'm sorry, Bureau of Cannabis Control. I thought I mentioned that word. You know what CDPH? So the license types for extraction are volatile and non-volatile, and that kind of goes back to what he was talking about. Volatile would be butane, propane, and the regulations are a little bit tougher on that for your facility and how things are done. And there's non-volatile extraction, which is mechanical means or carbon dioxide or alcohol, stuff that's not dangerous. And then you have, of course, standards and THC limits. Packaging and labeling is a big part of the regulation. There are a lot of requirements that we'll get into. For example, edible products have to be checked for homogeneity, so they have to be spot checked, so that you know that you have a tray of brownies, like every brownie is going to be the same. And there's also no alcoholic drinks allowed, no dairy products, nothing that has to be frozen or refrigerated. So it's pretty conservative. And then along with those requirements, we have rules about childproof and tamper evidence packaging. And there's a bunch of labeling requirements as well.
Can you talk a little bit about this packaging, because this is really, really important?
This is
exit bags.
This is a state requirement. They call them exit bags. Basically, your cannabis product needs to be in this safe bag before you leave the store, if it's not already childproof. Some of our products are already childproof, and some of them aren't. If they're not childproof, they have to be in a childproof exit bag for it to leave the store, for us to stay in compliance. It is pretty simple. I'm sorry, this one's different. It's a different one than I have in my store. But it basically makes it into a childproof, child-resistant container when you leave the store. Which, you know, as we go forward in California with the regulatory market, most of the products will come already child-resistant, child-sealed. These are a temporary solution to the problem. There. These are the ones we have in our store. It's kind of some adhesive sandpaper on the side, so you can pinch and slide to open it. But a child wouldn't have the hand strength to do that.
Sometimes adults don't have it, right?
Yeah. Biting it open.
Like him, see?
I mentioned the distribution license. It's a whole another license category, and the distributor is responsible for making sure that the packaging and labeling is all done properly, and also that it's going to pass the quality control, lab testing side of things. So I just threw this drawing I got from our designer of our packaging for one of our big fans. You can see the California the yield/cannabis information point logo, and there's a Prop 65 warning, and I think there's a couple other things that are not shown here, but it's pretty. That symbol, the California yield sign with exclamation point. If any legal cannabis product is on the market, especially an edible, contains cannabis, it has to have this symbol on here to warn people that there's cannabis in there. That's something to look out for if you do or don't want it. And you want to eat something that you're iffy about, look for that symbol because it may have cannabis in it. So on the left we have just a small label here, indica sativa hybrid. Those are just kind of different types of cannabis. So we wanted to take a second to talk about CBD. And like we said earlier, it's a non-psychoactive cannabis. So in a lot of cases where use, for example, where psychoactivity is not acceptable, CBD is acceptable.
Yes, CBD is for me is truly amazing. It's helped countless people that I've helped firsthand. I can see the benefits that they're receiving from it. All at the same time, well, they're able to use cannabis, but they don't have to get high from cannabis. This is a fairly new thing for everybody. You associate cannabis with just getting high. And there's other cannabinoids that do not get you high that have great medical benefits, which are still being discovered and still being studied. This is all very new, but very exciting also. And I would encourage anybody to try CBD concentrate, especially if there's zero THC in it. If you can find a product that has zero THC, it's definitely worth a try. I guarantee you won't get high.
So what kind of uses then? Is it good for pain or good for?
Yeah, people are using it for pain, anti-inflammatory. Some people are using it for focus. It actually helps me with focus. Muscle spasms.
Sleep, anxiety, lots of stuff.
Yeah, they're using it for lots of stuff. But like Omar said, I'm not a doctor, so I can't exactly say this is going to treat this, But I can tell you what people are using it for.
And what they say about it.
Yes.
For CBD, do you recommend dosage, or is it something where you just recommend people start small and then just see what the effects?
I always recommend for any cannabis product for people to start small, see how their body reacts, and up from there. Never start at the other opposite end, because a lot of times it'll have an adverse effect and it'll steer somebody away from cannabis altogether. If you overdose them, especially if it's their first time using cannabis and you overdose them, they'll look at that stuff like, I'm never touching that again. And so dosing, starting small and dosing properly is very important when you're just starting using cannabis. We're already past time. Should I continue or should we?
I will leave that up to you. I think I was just out there, coordinating in the hallway. I think we can certainly give this another 2 minutes.
Okay.
If there's interest in getting through the presentation.
I'm just going to talk about like our cameras and security system if anybody's interested in that. If not, we can just
stop now and
I have a question that ties it all together for what we talked about in the morning, is that you guys are, healthy, happy businessmen with children.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, how do we talk about the use of, cannabis, that kind of thing. So I was wondering how you're planning to address that.
well, my oldest son doesn't have zero interest in cannabis, which is fine with me. He has other interests. And my other two sons are too young for, in my opinion. I mean, we talk about it. They know it's legal now, but they really have no interest in using cannabis. And if they do, I'll know, because I'm a cannabis provider. And I'll be able to guide them in the correct way if they really want to use cannabis if they're of age. But right now, none of my children use cannabis or even interested in it. Maybe it's because their dad owns it, the grown especially they're just like, cannabis, whatever, what else,
And they're happy, well-adjusted kids, because I think that's what we were kind of talking about, when you reach for substance, sometimes that's where it comes from, this is emotional, or, that kind of thing. And,
Sure, yeah, an escape.
Yeah,
in a sense.
that's
Yeah.
one use,
Right.
yeah. So if you have these happy, healthy kids, then it would be like,
Why would they need to escape?
Yeah,
right.
maybe.
No, yeah. I mean, so there's all kinds of variables and factors in that, exactly. So I can just touch a little bit about our security system and our security at the Garden of Eden. It's a really highly secure facility. We have something like 43 cameras, I think it is now, for the exterior and the interior of the building. We have what they call PTZ cams, which are pan, tilt, zoom cameras that can move and zoom in really far away. And we kind of use that as our proactive security approach. When someone basically illegally parks, and then they come to your door, to your store, and then you say, hey, you're illegally parked, can you please move your car? And they go, how did you see me do that? A block away, And we go, well, we got cameras all over the place, we can zoom in, we can see. And that becomes part of our security plan, because they go, oh, wow, they can see me from that far away, and then they're, so anybody who's like, that would want to do harm to us, they take these things into consideration. In the past, also, a lot of dispensaries, you could just walk in, flash your card, and you walk right in. You just go like this, and now you're in. We never did that at my store. It's too unsafe. You don't know who's coming in, you don't keep track of who came in your store. So we would actually sit them down, explain to our rules. We take a copy of their ID. We take a copy of the recommendation. We call the doctor and verify the recommendation. So it was a whole process of coming in as a customer. And so that kind of helped us out with our security plan. We can see you coming and going far away, and we kind of know what your intentions are about your body language walking up to the door. Just our kind of explain enough like how our exterior camera system became and being able to read that camera system properly became our proactive approach to security. We don't have armed guards at my store. We never have. Yeah, yes.
I heard there's a bill moving through the state legislature to form a bank for the cannabis industry.
That would be nice. They keep talking about this over and over again. Really, the main problem lies in the FDIC. It's a federal insurance, basically. Everyone's insured up to $100,000 in your bank account. If something happens, you're good up to $100,000. And so, since that's a federal, I guess, insurance, with cannabis, it's just not allowed. They don't allow FDIC insurance if you're banking cannabis. There hasn't been a cannabis bank yet that I know of. I really would like for us to have some banking solutions, absolutely.
I think I have come to accept that we are not going to make it all the way through the presentation, which is cool. But I would suggest if people wanted to take a look at the final slides, we might be able to take a few more questions. And if in looking at the final slides that triggered a question of something that was not yet covered, please feel free to ask. And I also think we probably all have, maybe so you can stick around for a few minutes and maybe answer some personal questions. Sure. If there's something that we don't get to.
So how with the camera situation, like, what if somebody's behaving in a way that looks odd, and it might have something to do with the bill, with disorganized, but then when I leave, and then illegal, how would you handle that?
It all depends on our communication with that person. You know, we'll approach them, we'll say, you know, hey, how you doing? We'll start up a conversation and see how they react. If they seem too out of it, or they can't coherently hold a simple conversation, then we'll think something's wrong, something's not right here. But other than that, it's just human interaction. We really don't have too many of those problems. It has happened in the past. That somebody had came in and just sat down in the lobby and just didn't want to leave. We said, okay, thank you for coming, but time to go. And I said, no, it's not going anywhere. Okay. And so we were trying to be really nice to them. Eventually, we had to call the sheriff's department to have the person removed. I don't know what their reason was. They just kind of froze up and wouldn't leave. I don't know. It was obviously a mental issue. Don't know where it came from. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no on-site consumption, so I don't see how, I guess it's a happy place because, people are there to buy cannabis, but it's not like they're consuming there and getting high there. So, I don't know. We rarely deal with those type of situations, but we try to be as nice as we can. And if we have to involve our local sheriff's department, we will. But we don't want to be the ones dragging the person out or anything like that. It's terrible.
So if I wanted to buy a jewel,
Yes.
where would I go to get it, and how much would it cost me to buy the unit, but also to buy enough product to use?
Well, the jewel we don't sell, but it's another version from PAX. PAX makes what is the Era? This is called the Era, which is like the jewel. It's just a little bit bigger, and the price on that is what is it again, Omar? Okay.
20 or 30 bucks for the battery. You can order the battery directly from PAX, or you can buy it in the dispensary.
It's about $100, basically.
About $100 to buy the unit, and then is it the same about $60
For the cartridge.
depending on the?
Correct. And there's different types too. This is the most expensive high-end vaporizer we're talking about. There's basically what we call a middle shelf and a bottom shelf, and they're all very good. They're all made by Omar's expertise in the extraction.
What's the cheapest?
I use it myself.
The cheapest is which one, Omar? The black one. This one.
I don't see any here. It's right here. I think it's 35 or 40. Yeah.
This is the cheapest one we sell, which is just as good as a lot of other products. This is just the battery part.
Kathy has a question.
Sorry, Kathy.
Mine's a real quick question,
Okay.
just help. Minors with cannabis cards can walk in and buy on their own?
Minors, are you talking about under 18?
Yes.
No, not in my store.
It's 21 is the law.
Even with the
Yeah.
cannabis
Yeah,
card?
it
So
doesn't matter.
60
No, even with a cannabis card, you can come in 18 years old with a cannabis card. That was the way it was before. We actually switched before the law passed just to do 21 and over because it's actually another federal charge by selling to somebody under 21. They're still considered an adolescent, I guess. And so we decided we want to avoid federal trouble at all costs. So we are strictly 21 and over.
I want to respect people's Friday afternoons, attendees and presenters as well. I hope that maybe we can stick around for a few minutes. If there are people who have some specific individual questions. And I just really wanted to thank you so much. Not only, I didn't want to say anything, but I know that this is a experience for these guys to come and to present to a group of healthcare professionals. And I just really appreciate, one, your willingness to come and do this.
Thank you.
And, you know, on 420, which,
It's like I'm
you know,
Sunday.
it was an better day for us, but then when we wanted to invite someone from industry, it was a terrible day.
Yeah.
But you did, you know, you flexed and you came and you did this. So thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us. And thanks for putting up with our presentation.
Please do.
It'll be better in the future, I promise.